I feel so good. So relaxed. I like it. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, the Lord of all the worlds, to whom we belong and to whom is our return. And may His choicest blessings go to the highest of Allah's creation, our beloved Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the most romantic of all prophets, an ambassador for us and humanity at large. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Of all the lectures I have given, and the many lectures I've given in many parts of the world, I don't think a topic is far more critical than one that we're going to discuss. And I want to say this in my preamble, that sometimes in relationships we have issues. And I'm loath to generalize, but suffice it to say, I've seen the capacity of individuals who take a quantum leap. We are essentially products of life experiences. A child growing up in a happy home where there is this expression of love, this demonstration of love, grows up believing that this is a norm, which it ought to be. Then another child grows up in another home where the relationship between the father and mother is one of contestation and struggle, sometimes silences, and no expression of love. The child grows up having a jaundiced view about marriage and assuming that's a norm. In fact, in one of the schools in London, where I was conducting a workshop, they found that the children growing up had no respect for the female teachers. Kids, rude, no respect for the female teacher. And they began to wonder, why? Children normally are inclined towards their mothers, and in consequence, females, right? And then they learned that many of these kids they grow up in a home where it is a pure patriarchal society, to a point in which the husband is dictatorial and he does not really have a conversation with his wife. It's more like reprimand and instruction. Now, why am I saying this? I'm saying this because when I help people with their marital issues, and I helped over thousands of people with Allah's blessing, and when couples come to me, I tell them, you don't come to me to separate, because they don't call me the love doctor for nothing. The love doctor, and I like it. Inevitably, I find is because of the childhood. And therefore, you find today, when you go for premarital counseling or conversation, a fair number of questions, maybe up to 7 or 8 questions, are about your childhood. And I want you to understand this, please. The childhood. Did you grow up in a happy home? Were your mom and dad loving? Did they show affection to each other in your presence? How did they show affection to each other? Are there some aspects of your childhood you want to block out completely? And when you get married to me, inshallah, what kind of father would you be? How would you like me to show you affection? These are important questions, my friends. Very, very important questions. And there is a condition called post-traumatic stress. And I want to talk about all of this. I don't know about you. Are you enjoying it so far? Yes. I'm having a great time, really. If you're not enjoying it, it's okay. I'm having a jolly good time, I'll tell you. There is a condition called post-traumatic stress. Post-traumatic stress is when you grow up or when you go through some trauma, the issues are unresolved. And because they are unresolved, it taints the way you look at each other. It taints the way you look at the world. It filters that. It's a very important thing, you see. It filters that. Why is it? You get someone who is optimistic, someone pessimistic. It doesn't just happen. You're not born like that. You're born with a clean sheet. Why? What it is. And therefore, my friends, marriage, intimacy is a bedrock of any marriage. Even the Quran, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam highlight this. When we are told, look at this beautiful metaphor, that we are garments unto each other. What a powerful, powerful metaphor. You can spend the whole day talking about it. A garment. What does a garment do? It is closest thing to you. Am I right or wrong? It protects you. It beautifies you. It comforts you. Makes you feel secure. Garment. Beautiful. And I want to share one incident with you first. I know some of you heard it a number of times, so it's okay. About the expression of love. Expression of love. So hopefully today, I want to define what is intimacy. I want to look at the physical aspect of intimacy. I want to look at the emotional aspect of intimacy. I want to look at the spiritual dimension to intimacy. Is it possible that all three things are not discrete, but they can be interwoven and be a part of this? Why are some people not intimate enough? What does intimacy mean to some people? So these are very important questions, inshallah. How many of you are married? Put your hands up here. How many of you are not married? You all look like the happiest people here. Okay, right. I want to share this. Now before I share this, please remember, I have tremendous faith in man's capacity, no matter what your experiences might have been, how unrelenting the pain might be. I'm saying this. I have complete faith in man's capacity. I use the word man in a generic sense. Man's capacity to take a quantum leap of faith. I believe that. I don't believe anyone is incorrigible. I don't believe that. And Allah is merciful, Ghafurur Rahim. We're going to make mistakes, inshallah Allah will forgive us. We turn to Him. Now this first incident I'm going to talk about, something, and really it was for me, in my experience as a counselor, it was one of the most revealing experiences. Right? This man phones me up. Someone told him that I can help him. He telephones me and he says to me that my wife and I have issues. So I asked him, what is the issue? He said, well, my wife has never, in my 12 years of marriage, expressed her love for me. I don't even know if she loves me. But I can deal with that. But I'm concerned about my child who is 1 year old, our child, who is not experiencing the mother's love. So what do you want to do? He said, well, I want to stay in the marriage. So what about your wife? He says, well, I must speak to her. So I spoke to her on the phone and she said to me, I want to stay in the marriage except my father said to me, if I don't come back home now, I must never come back. It was quite clear that the father was acutely aware of the ongoing issues between them and he was perhaps now fed up. So I said, no, you stay there. I will be coming. The love doctor. Who will be coming? Who? Yeah, say it with love. Say the love doctor. That's it. Yeah, smile. Eh? Love doctor. I call my wife Shushu Babalina. Shushu Babalina. Doll Hazard. Anyway, so she said, okay. I went to that place and see, Allah works in mysterious ways. In Islam, there is no coincidence. No. There is no coincidence in Islam. So we as people of faith must be able to capitalize whenever we meet. There is a reason for that meeting. Anyway, I got to the town. I normally have my own vehicle there. I would hire a car. On that day, I didn't have a vehicle. So he fetched me. That means I had an opportunity of speaking to him on a one-to-one basis. Could I? If I did not have the opportunity, I don't think I'll be able to share with you what I'm sharing with you. I asked him, give me a quick background about your wife. You know what he said to me? Words to this effect. When my wife was about 1.5 years old, her mother left them. I said, okay. We chatted. I went to the home. I spoke to the wife and I spoke to the husband. And I like to, in an ideal situation, I like to speak to couples when they are together. Not because there will be dishonesty, no. Because you are sharing a perspective of a situation. It is your perspective. It is not necessarily the only perspective. I recall in my initial years of counseling, I met a sister, and Allah bless her, and she came with a wad of notes, wad of notes. And she was speaking about her husband. I promise you, I concluded, I said to myself, could there be a more diabolical human being on this earth? And what she said. Right. The husband came to me after a few months. He came to me, he said to me, I'm sure you heard from my wife. I said, did I hear or what? He said, let me share with you my perspective. When he shared his perspective, I said, could there be a more diabolical wife than his? You know what I'm saying to you? Right? Anyway, alhamdulillah, they're together. So anyway, I went to the home, this couple. I chatted with them. Then I said to her, I realized then her negative experiences, the trauma of the past, the lack of mother's love, and all of that had a profound impact on her psyche, on her values, and her attitude. I said this needs to be released. So what I did, let us say she was sitting in any of these chairs, right? So I asked the husband to sit opposite her and face her, hold her hand. And I said to her, I want you to imagine that your husband is your mother. What you like to tell your mother, but in real life you'll not tell her out of respect. She said, what? I said, I'm not going to tell you what to say, you just speak. What's in your heart? I was praying it works. And she started off. After a few minutes, there was like a flood of tears, like a tsunami hit this place. She started off by saying words to the effect, Ma. Allah gave me such a beautiful child, Ma. Such a loving child, Ma. But I did not know how to show him love, Ma. Because you never showed me love, Ma. Daddy never showed me love, Ma. In fact, Ma, you left me, Ma. Why, Ma? Why? Why should this child suffer? Why should this child suffer? She was crying. And the husband was getting also a bit emotional. He said, Ya Allah. He said, oh Ma, Allah gave me such a wonderful husband. So caring and compassionate. But I do not know how to show him love, Ma. I am so blessed to have him. But what's the use, Ma? I cannot because I never saw you and Daddy loving each other, hugging each other, celebrating each other, Ma. And she was crying and I was crying through Allah's mercy. Then they both got up and they hugged each other. Asked her, how do you feel? He says, I have closure now. Asked her husband, how do you feel? Okay, now I understand my wife. And with Allah's blessing, that was a tipping point in the marriage. And it so happened, unbeknown to me, they were there at the marriage conference in Johannesburg. So as I'm giving the talk, with Allah's blessing, my head turned and I saw her brother. And I did not want him to know about what happened. So I lied. I said, this lady I saw, she had 4 brothers. And after the conference, she sent me a message. She says, I knew you were talking about me. If my story can inspire others, why not? So what is it all about? Is understanding. Essentially, I see intimacy is a kind of closeness, a kind of security, where you not only bear all physically, but also emotionally, where you feel secure enough to be your true self. You feel secure enough to be your spontaneous self to someone who loves you and looks at you with non-judgmental eyes. I see that affinity. What else is important? Let us talk about this. And I say this to people. The home should be the happiest place, a bastion, a place of comfort, of succor, of sakina. You go there knowing 2 things. that you're going home to someone that you love. Someone that you feel secure enough. Someone, not only that you love, someone that also loves you. I say to everyone, I do not mind if the whole world stops talking to me. It's true. But if I go home, when I do go home, I jokingly say, and Allah bless my beloved wife. You know, I travel quite a bit, and Allah bless her. When some people tell me, you know, Idris, you spend a lot of time away from home, I say, well, my wife always wanted an outstanding husband, so I'm standing outside. So anyway, it's a beautiful thing. And I say, I do not mind the world stop talking to me. But I want to come to a place, someone that I can hug and tell her, my darling, I love you. I missed you. I had a tough day today. That's all I need to say. A hug, silent though it is eloquent enough to say, I'm here for you. I love you. Hold me. Now you see, I'm writing a book, inshallah, it's called Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the Romantic Prophet. Very romantic. That's what you want to see. Now how can we do this? Let's look at it. Let's look at the first aspect. The critical thing, the basis of everything is this. When you go home, when you do go home, look at each other with the eye of love. Eh? Look at each other with the eye of love. Try it out. I promise you, you'll be looking differently. And you will be looked at differently. Listen with empathy. With empathy. Now, a point I want to make before I forget. Intimacy is not only when you are with her alone or with a husband. Intimacy is what you are also doing outside the home. Remember that. What kind of psychological preparation are you making? Do you come back with your mind so cluttered about the world, then the people that you're supposed to love the most get the least part of your love. They get a tired Idris. Idris whose mind is racked by the world. She gets the brunt of my anger. She gets the brunt of my negative emotions. You know what I'm saying? It's a very important thing. Very, very important thing. It's the preparation. So when you come home, it is those things. It's also... Jazakumullah. Now, what is he? Oh, I got a shock. Wait, is he listening outside? Is he okay? Am I safe for it? You know what I'm saying? Right? The critical thing is that you need to understand. You need to understand that. So when you come home, it's to start having conversations where it is not only you as the man, but the woman. She participates, she initiates it. She can also initiate the physical aspect of love. You understand? Where you have a discussion, where you talk about what is it that makes you happy? What is it that gives you fulfillment? What is it, right, that generally uplifts your spirit. And remember this, once you do this, consciously and with intentionality, there'll come a time in your marital life that your silence is as loud as your eloquence. You should talk about it. Now there's another dimension to all of this. Generally speaking, women are nurturing, they're more feeling beings, right? Men are somewhat different. But it does not mean we do not have the capacity to be feeling and loving. You know, one day we were doing a workshop and we had about 40 couples. We had 40 couples, and what happened, we put the sisters together in 5 groups of 8 each, and the men 5 groups of 8 each. And I asked them this question, tell me 10 things that will make you happy at home. You will not believe this. None of the points raised by the brothers was repeated by the sister. The men were saying, when I come home, I don't hear about the kids, the homework must be finished, the food must be ready. You know the kind of story, right? Finished, matter of fact. What were the women saying? I hope my husband comes with a flower, a chocolate, and is nurturing, right? Gives me a massage, you know, those kinds of things, right? They're speaking in that language, sensual, right? Now you got to understand, this is it, and you learn. For example, some of the differences are, on average, a woman speaks 25,000 words a day, a man 12,500 words, on average. So, when you ask your husband or whoever, I mean not whoever, I mean your husband, Allah forbid, right? When you ask your husband, right, how was your day? The often response is, Alhamdulillah, finish. You can be away for 2 weeks, how was your trip? Alhamdulillah. So people ask the wife, how was your husband's trip? Alhamdulillah. Right? Yet, when they're talking to the friends, the other details come, you know, right? Now they say, for example, a man will speak 12,495 words outside. He's only got 5 words left for his wife. He'll come home, Assalamu alaikum. If he says darling, he's got 3 words left. What's for dinner? Khalas. And then on the table, he sits like a zombie there. You provide the food. Right? No conversation. Right? You ask the wife, how was the day? Brother, bite your tongue and listen to her. Don't interrupt her. Now when women are talking, and women, you are here, you can disagree if you wish. It's okay. When women are talking, they don't want a solution from you. For them, it is romantic that my husband is here. I'm able to let him know how I spent my day. This is so beautiful. Yes or no, sisters? Hey? Okay, right? So what I'm saying that, right? The other thing is this, women like details. Details. That's what they like. And I remember once I told my wife, I said to her, darling, hey, saw a bad accident. I said, oh, finished, boy. How did it happen? He must be driving fast. You said his leg broke. Which leg broke? So now I come home and say, darling, I've got no accidents to report. Women like details. It is not enough, for example, to tell your wife, she asks you, how was my outfit? Say, Alhamdulillah. No, say, turn around. My gosh, it looks gorgeous on you. Then you feel okay, right? So when you look at intimacy, basically, intimacy is when you are with your spouse in the marital life, you give 100% of yourself to her and vice versa. You are present 100% emotionally, physically and spiritually. And it is in this relationship that you have, you are reminded also of your mortality, you're reminded also of your Islamic responsibility. Where as couples, you remind each other about these things. And when intimacy is also about the fact that there are no secrets between spouses. There are no secrets between spouses. What your spouse knows from you, no one else ought to know. Secondly, there must not be any trust issues. Now I want to say this to you. It's very, very important. We need to talk about it. We need to talk about when, for example, there is infidelity. How it impacts on the relationship. But how should you go about dealing with that? So when it comes to this, it is very, very critical. Very, very critical that the basis of it all is this. Because one of the complaints of many spouses is the fact that my spouse does not communicate, doesn't speak anything. So I got to second guess if he's happy or he's sad. I have no idea. You understand? And very importantly, in a happy marriage, where there is intimacy in its widest ramification, the couples grow together spiritually also. They grow together emotionally. Now this is a point, you see. The point is this: the most effective antidote to marital issues is what? Tell me. What do you think is the most effective antidote? Got time, man. What's the most effective antidote? Sorry? Is communication? What is an effective antidote? There are two. Besides taqwa, I'm not talking about those things that all of us speak about, is that each one of you must have a healthy self-esteem, number one. And secondly, both of you must have a high emotional quotient. In fact, psychologists today speak so much about emotional quotient, and our Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the finest exponent of the EQ. Self-esteem is essentially recognizing that you are a unique creation of Allah. And that the other person is not necessarily better than you, but is different from you. People with high self-esteem are individuals who have some of these qualities. They are humble, they have a generosity of heart, they feel good for other people, they are able to adapt to change, they're not suspicious, right? They do not overreact to situations, they are independent and also interdependent, they listen with empathy, they feel your pain, right? They are decisive. If you got low self-esteem, you are insecure, you are suspicious, you have a victim mentality, you blame everyone else for your environment, you'll not take responsibility, and you'll succumb to negative peer pressure. That's very quickly. Now let's discuss a little more detail the emotional aspect, the EQ. What is EQ? What's emotional quotient? What is emotional quotient?
Self-awareness.
Self-awareness, yes.
And also social awareness.
Social awareness, yes.
Self-management.
Management. Yeah. Alhamdulillah. You're right. I'll give you full marks. Emotional intelligence is essentially being smart about your emotions. We are sometimes glad, sometimes we are sad, sometimes we are mad. But it's how you deal with these emotions. Now you find, hello, I like it. You'll find that when you become self-aware, listen to this. When you become self-aware, when you are speaking, let's say to your wife, hey Idris, your tone is a bit harsh, Idris. Bring it down. You learn to self-regulate it. You'll never get from a person with a high EQ torrents of anger. No. He becomes, as you say, socially aware. He also would see the impact of his words. If his wife's body language suddenly changed when he said something, he knows it is dangerous. And part of EQ is your ability to adapt. Part of EQ is to have a positive outlook in life. And when you got a high EQ, you do not suffer from what you call emotional meltdowns. You don't go through one experience with your spouse and say, I don't want to marry you. Even your mother told me I'm stupid to marry you. But what you do, you are able to be happy in your marriage, isolate the issue. And in fact, what happens to you, you're a get up and go person. You'll go through a situation, but you'll not overreact. You understand? You'll go through a situation, but you'll not overreact. And it's something we need to learn. You know, if I do get angry, that's a rare thing. And how would I express my anger if it is towards my darling wife? I love you, darling, my shushu babulina. I would tell her, darling, I'm angry. Yes. I don't have to scream my anger. If she knows me, she knows I'm angry. You understand what I'm saying to you? Right? Because remember this. You know, I heard this before and I want to share this. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said words to this effect, that you must keep your relationships moist. Look at it. Moist. Moist requires much more nurturing, isn't it? Eh? Look at it. Understand the import of your words. So we need to develop that, inshallah. And the last thing I want to speak about here is the following. But before I speak about this last point about infidelity, I want to say this to you. You know exactly, right? You know exactly whether you are intimate in the broadest sense and the comprehensive understanding of intimacy. Some people have only a one or unidimensional view of intimacy. Others have a broad picture, a complete picture. Because I've yet to come across any man whose wife has passed away before him who has no regrets. Statistically, women outlive us. But if the woman has to die before her husband, in many cases, the husband follows soon after that. Many cases. Example, my beloved father. My father was a very public figure. May Allah grant all our parents the highest status in Jannah. Streetwise, involved in producing plays. Did all of that. My mother was a salt of the earth, very emotional person. When I used to visit her, when I was in Durban, she see me, she cries. When I used to leave, she cried. One day she did not cry, said, "Mommy, you forgot to cry." She cried immediately. She would go for a wedding, she sees the girl's mother crying, she would cry. She sees next door, the boy's mother smiling, she'll smile. That was my mother. So my mother passed away before my father. And I'll not forget this incident. I'm there with my dad. I said to my father, Daddy, you and I did not know Allah gave us an angel. They say we know not the depth of our love except at the hour of parting. What were my father's words? He said, "My beloved son," he put his head down, "what can I do? I cannot turn back the clock. And the day my mother died, that's the day my father died spiritually, and soon afterwards he passed away." When I should tell him, "Daddy, we're all here," he says, "I know, my sons, you're my wealth, but your mummy is not here." It is the most critical relationship in your life. The marital life is the most critical, fundamental relationship in your life. Nothing can be more hypocritical than neglecting this sunnah or not giving this marital life the dignity it deserves, but being celebratory outside with everyone else. Nothing. So we need to reprioritize our lives. Right? And also, the time of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, people used to openly ask, Sahabis used to also ask Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam questions about intimacy. They used to ask him. Hadrat Umar bin Khattab, right? And they were concerned. They were concerned about the perspective of the sisters. You understand? And we find this. The lack of intimacy is becoming one of the biggest causes of divorces in the community. It's a huge thing. A huge thing. The women have right over you, you have right over them. And something that we need to understand. Understand that intimacy goes far beyond the act itself. It's about your emotional connection to that individual. It's also your spiritual reality around it. It's a fundamental thing that we need to understand. As I said, nothing can be more beautiful than a happy home. If you have got a happy home, you are amongst the 10% of the world. I have concluded that every home should have a counselor. So bad things are. Right? So every home. Now, I want to just say this to you. That we as individuals, you need to understand the power of words and the time when you need to be silent. It's about being caring, forgiving and loving. Being expressive about your love. Saying those things. Even Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to have nicknames for his wives. How beautiful is their relationship? There's one incident. How beautiful is this? When Bibi Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, she was saying there was one evening, she was lying down close to Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and she said words to the effect that I was enjoying my closeness to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then he turned to me gently. He said to me, "Do you mind if I get up and read my Qiyamul Layl?" What was her response? "As much as I love my closeness to you, I love what you love." Right? The gentility of the conversation. Now, what if what if there is infidelity? Infidelity has become today so rife, it's unbelievable. Really unbelievable. People come to me sometimes, they tell me, brother, I want to talk to you and you might get a shock. I said, try me. Nothing shocks me. That's how bad it is. Right? I really believe that when you're bringing couples together, when there's infidelity, I don't believe in putting a Lester plaster there. Masking the wound and telling the woman or the husband, be patient, make sabr. No. We need to look at the underlying reasons. And when the couples do come back, the relationship must go to another level in every aspect. Inshallah. There was one study that was done. They interviewed a number of women who broke up their marriages because of infidelity. And of course, they have different levels of infidelity. There's also what you call emotional infidelity. When you connect with others outside your home emotionally, and you are too exhausted emotionally to connect with your spouse, so you only connect with them physically. So emotional flirtation. So anyway, these women were interviewed much later. After they separated, they were upset, which I can understand, and 75% of them regretted. They said, whilst my husband did this, in the main, he was a good person. And I reacted, had a knee-jerk reaction. All right? So, I want to say this to all of you. You and your spouse needs to have a unique conversation once a week. Unique. You have a conversation, yes. But to speak about this aspect of intimacy. Speak about it. Speak about your joy, your pain. Speak about it. You rather do a biopsy rather than an autopsy. You know what I'm saying? Jazakumullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.